And they should all be firing up all over the place. YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble. If you're watching this on YouTube and want to see it on Odyssey and Rumble, the links are below. Hello, everyone. How you doing? Don't flake out on me now, guys.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
there you
I was muted.
How you guys been?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
What's up? Yeah, Vega, it's
Allergies.
been a while since you've been on the live stream.
Yeah, just never. The timing just didn't work out, but tonight I'm here.
By the way, everyone, go check out Darth Vega's YouTube channel. He's got a Ray Comfort video on it. I actually met Ray Comfort.
Yeah, Darth Vega 21 should get you there.
Ray Comfort. Who's Ray Comfort?
He's that Way of
Banana
the
Man.
Master guy, the creationist from New Zealand.
Hmm.
He's the one who goes around and he tries to get people in these intellectual traps, and I don't even know where he's going with it because it makes no sense, but he's asking like, well, have you ever told a lie at any time in your life? Is anyone who lies a liar?
Oh, yeah, he's one of those guys. It's like, I mean, I'm not a perfect person, but I wouldn't consider myself bad or evil. It's like, well, have you ever told a lie? Well, yeah, who hasn't? Yep, you're a liar then.
Well, I fixed my sink one time. Does that make me a plumber? Yeah,
you mentioned that in your video. Yeah. I once manually removed a computer virus from my computer. Does that mean I'm a software engineer?
Vega, do you know where he's actually going with that argument about the liar thing?
Well, he's trying to establish that you're not a good person according to the Bible, and if you're not a good person, that means you're going to hell unless you believe in Jesus. But
the basic misanthropy of Christianity, making you feel bad for being human.
Yep.
But like, it's not just enough to believe in Jesus; you have to repent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I found kind of strange anyway, because I think according to his theology, Christians also sin. So
the funny irony too is that that's not even really, that's actually, the funny irony is that the whole thing about how you have to repent and be ashamed of what you are, that's actually ironically a relatively new thing in Christianity, because if I recall correctly, it came from the Calvinist movement, and when the Calvinists first came out, they were hated.
Oh yeah. But
yeah.
then they got into centers of power all over the place. So
Then they started saying, okay, new rule. If you think impure thoughts, you're evil and you have to whip yourself.
So SKM.
My whole life I've been fed this eternal conscious torment idea, and so like, it's terrifying, not just for yourself, but for everyone you love.
Yeah.
You know it's one fact that a lot of those evangelical Christians seem to ignore from the Bible when they talk about how we're all inherently evil and sinful. Isn't that what the crucifixion was all about? So we're no longer vile sinners?
Yeah, but then they can't control you that way.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it the right way, according to Ray, you're a false convert. So there's that. So even if you believe in Jesus, and you may have repented in the past, that may not be enough.
Yeah, let me explain the Banana Man reference that SKM is talking about. In Way of the Master, he does this thing about how we know there's a God and how we know it's so perfect because of the banana. The banana is clearly made, for us. And look how, you unzip the banana and how it's like curved towards your mouth. And first of all, it's dumb on the face of it. Second, the only reason why we have bananas like that is because of thousands of years of selection by humans.
Yeah.
It's a cultivar.
Yeah.
So it's doubly dumb.
Like wild bananas look nothing like the yellow bananas we have. They're purple.
No, the Cavendish bananas that we have are all like cloned from like one banana tree in the 1800s or something.
Yeah.
And there's lots of other edible bananas, but the wild bananas are small. They don't peel easy. You have to do it with a knife. They've got these big, round, hard seeds in them. Yeah.
Not to mention, I've heard that unlike typical bananas, which are squishy and chewy, like wild bananas, they can actually get pretty hard.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Shane. Ray brings up a lot this idea of how could the heart and the blood vessels evolve at the same time? Like if you have the heart but no blood vessels, if you have the vessels but no blood, no heart. Have you heard that argument before? Trying to
No, but I've heard
evolution?
similar ones. It's the irreducible complexity thing.
Yeah. Which has been debunked, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I keep citing a paper from 1918 about it and about how evolution can make these kinds of symptoms. So that's how far behind the creationists are.
And the funny irony for irreducible complexity is that they like to cite humans as an example, but is that when you compare to other organisms out there, humans actually aren't as complex as you think they are. Like, they like to go with the human eyes, but the human eyes are actually primitive compared to the eyes of other animals like owls.
Or octopus.
Yeah.
The octopus has much better eyes than we do.
Yeah. Yeah, contrary to what some of those people of the Sea Shepherd organization would say, or the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, dolphins are not the smartest creatures in the ocean. That belongs to the octopi.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
they're
like
smart,
you said,
they're clever, they're inventive, they're mischievous.
And like you said, Shane, in the video response to my question about the Answers in Genesis article, most Christians believe in evolution. This is these are a fringe minority.
Yeah.
Well, there's this they're like a minority in the minority because even biblical literalism is a minority among Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really going back with the creationist thing. And tomorrow's Lord Killian video is a flat earther, so I hadn't done one in a while, so I just felt like it.
Well, in all honesty, anarcho-liberal, I think part of the problem is, and to be fair, atheist YouTubers are partially responsible for this. It's because the fringe tend to get the most media attention.
I remember showing a Lord Killian video to one of my friends, and his response was, "Oh man, he sounds so angry."
It's a character. I'm playing a character. I would think the cartoon Avatar would have driven that home. Which is why I did it, because, I kept doing that, just kind of playing it up just to try to make it entertaining. Oh, you're clearly an angry person, and that means I get to dismiss everything you say. So I just wanted to make him shut up, so I made Lord Killian that way, and they're still saying it. It's an excuse. It's an excuse for not listening to you. That's all it is.
Can't refute the content, so we'll go after the character.
Yep. It's all it ever is. That when Fourth Root and I were making that Thunderfoot series on the Hyperloop, everyone kept saying that. And so I forget which part it was, but one of them, he was like, okay, Shane, you can't do your usual vocal inflections on this. They're going to say you're angry. Let's just write it. He went over the script with me a few times just to make sure all of the wording, none of the wording could be taken like that. When I read it out, I was almost deadpan. And he said, yeah, that's fine. And guess what? The Thunderfoot people still said I was angry. Yeah, if you have a cartoon avatar and you do an Oscar the Grouch video, they still try and say that's what you really like.
Well, you should be. If I recall correctly, there actually was a time where he did a couple of Lord Killing videos in a row, and he gave himself laryngitis.
It actually doesn't take very long.
Hmm.
If I do a video that's like more than 15 minutes with the Lord Killian voice, you'll hear it go.
Hey,
In
Shane,
fact,
got a
I think in
question.
tomorrow's, if I remember correctly, in tomorrow's, there's one point where you can just hear it go.
Shane, I've seen a lot of videos of you showing a screenshot of what you're looking at, and the scrolling is so smooth. I'm like, how do you accomplish that?
Oh, that's in post.
Oh,
Well, he
I
uses
just have highlights of it, and then I just read it out, and then in post I just have it scroll down.
No, his secret is that he rubs his video with Jergens lotion. That makes it all smooth.
Silky smooth. Any of you guys ever heard of Thomas Sheedy and the group called Atheists for Liberty? That's a new one on me.
I have not.
I mean, if they're like an atheist libertarian group, that's good because we need more people like that. Because
Yep.
sadly, there are so many atheists, that they're good at debunking religious bullshit, but they immediately turn their brains off when it comes to politics.
They just don't realize that they're the same thing.
Yep.
Do most atheists identify as liberal? I kind of thought that was the case.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Like a perfectly good example is Telltale Atheist. I love his Jehovah's Witness videos, but he just like he does video after video on nothing but Trump, and he only focuses on Trump. And it's like, we get it, you don't like Trump, but I hate to break it to you people, Trump isn't the only political cult out there. There's other more prominent ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pushback from the religious right, but they haven't really been a thing in a while.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like, people ask me, why don't you take? Because I had this discussion before. People ask me, why do you not? You get annoyed when we do videos about QAnon. It's because QAnon's not really much of a threat. They're just a bunch of crazy guys on the internet.
I cannot believe these whole like that one guy they just basically gave life in prison to. They're a bunch of morons who just went through the Capitol. They couldn't even organize, a trip to a food cart 50 feet away. Oh, but they're supposed to have been, And I think this last guy, I can't remember. It was something like he had tweeted something like, well, if we had brought our guns, then we would have showed him, or something dumb like that he tweeted. And that's proof that it's, that it was a planned, seditious conspiracy. No, that's proof that it wasn't, because if it had been a planned seditious conspiracy, they would have brought their guns instead of leaving it, in the hotel or whatever.
Yeah, I liked your videos about AR-15 lies, and it's just, I'm so tired of hearing that the AR-15 is the most powerful thing on the planet, and we have to, ban it because, reasons. And I'm like, so if AR-15s are so horrible and only used for war, then maybe we should take them out of the hands of the police and the Secret Service,
yeah,
and people who are transferring money.
Fun fact. You know what else is technically considered a weapon of war? A lot of bolt action rifles.
I was trying to talk to one guy on Twitter about it, and it's like, it's not on this. It says, but they're still used by the military. And I said, okay, by your argument, the Beretta 92 FS is a military style weapon. It's a basic 9mm handgun, but militaries all over the world use it.
And I'm like, someone is breaking into your house, maybe a couple people. Would you rather have a little tiny 6-shooter revolver or one of these so-called weapons of war?
Yeah, and you know what else? And you know what else the military uses? They also use the internet. They also use they still use knives. They still use shovels and hammers.
Yeah.
Does that mean those are weapons of war?
High capacity assault shovels.
You know, it's funny. One of the most ridiculous, bands that literally makes no sense and really doesn't make the public any safer is, people say, "Oh, you can't have a bayonet lug on them," and one guy who owns an AR-15 with a bayonet does say it's like, "Oh yeah, because yeah, remember that time when that guy went into a mall and he didn't shoot his AR-15, he mounted a bayonet and stabbed everyone."
The way I put
that.
it was because guns are so much more dangerous when they're knives.
Yeah. Yeah. And now the UK wants to collect your knife, save a life.
No, of course.
Yep, they're running out of things to ban. By the way, that guy.
Well, there's still a lot of potato peelers in the country. They'll be busy a while.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time before they're going to say, "Okay, new rule: when every human being is born, we have to chop off his hands because he's inevitably going to use his hands to hurt someone."
Fun fact: hands and feet. More people are murdered in this country with hands and feet than with rifles.
Yeah, handguns by far are the weapons, and of course that's what they're going to go after eventually, even if they.
Well, that was the whole point. Originally was when they were trying to when they banned like the short-barreled rifles and the sawed-off shotguns like that. The next step was going to be handguns.
Yeah, wasn't it a mass shooting in the UK with handguns that prompted the whole ban?
Yeah, just like with Australia with the Port Arthur massacre that made them clamp down on everything.
Well, the Port Arthur massacre, he did use a rifle, but it wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah, but I mean, it was still based on like one thing happens.
Yeah.
That's the thing about politicians. They're always fixing the previous crisis.
Yep. Well, it's something that Othias from Sea and Arsenal said when he was collaborating with the YouTube channel The Great War, talking about Great War weapons and how some of the weapons that were used by the nations during World War I were unfit, for modern war. And Othias said, well, because unfortunately there's an old saying in military history that governments are always prepared for the last war.
Yep.
I had a friend of mine tell me, I don't want a military style AR. I want that's not good enough. I want
I
want a much higher quality AR.
Was that Vermin Supreme always said, "I'm going to take all your guns and give you better guns."
I say I will be willing to lay down my guns if the government does it first. Show us that you're serious. Show us that it'll work.
Yeah.
If you vote me for president, I'm gonna have all of the nuclear warheads in our ICBMs replaced with glitter.
I cannot figure out where those pops are coming from. I don't think it's my end. Do you hear them? Hey, Sid.
Hey, what up?
How you been?
I've been all right.
I'm trying to catch it when it happens, but it's too intermittent.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's from you, Chris. The pops. They're coming from your end.
Sorry, I'm eating.
Yeah.
I forgot to mute my mic while I was eating. Sorry.
Well, every now and then we're just getting a pop from your end.
Oh. Could be my chair. My chair's really squeaky. I need to get a new one.
No, it sounds like the audio is being shut off and on.
Oh.
That kind of pop.
Hmm.
Anyway. How you doing, Sid?
I'm doing all right. There's a quick thing. I'm probably only gonna be able to stay for like an hour because there's a Celtics game I want to catch later on. So.
It's not Celtic. It's Celtic. You Philistine.
I confess that does bother me a lot.
Yeah. Just like how it's not Notre Dame, it's Notre Dame.
The Boston Celtics doesn't have the same ring. I don't know.
It sounds better. Boston Celtics sounds a lot better. That sounds like a hard-hitting team. Boston Celtics sounds like a knitting circle.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually heard, some people, that have said they've gotten ugly stares, from tour guys, when they go to France and they say, "Hey, I want to see Notre Dame Cathedral." The general attitude is either "What the fuck are you talking about, you crazy American?" or "Dude, did you not do your research before you came here?"
Yeah, true. Yeah, I guess people do tend to use the more colloquial and not necessarily correct definitions.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, if you could figure out what's causing that, I think it would be better. Right there, it just happened again. There, that.
Speaking of which,
Just happened
Oh,
twice.
you know what it could be? It could be the little lever I have that turns my mic on and off.
Yep, that would be it.
Okay.
Yeah, some of those buttons are like that. The mute button I have that's a foot switch is actually not a switch, it's a potentiometer. It's like a volume control, except it just turns it down really fast, but it doesn't give you that on and off pop that happens when you just switch it off unceremoniously.
well, speaking of which, or not speaking of which, but are any of you here into any sports, or am I the only one?
Not me.
Yeah, not really a sports guy.
Okay, fair enough.
Pretty much on the wrong live stream for that.
Yeah, true.
I
Although we
understand there
talking-
was one sort of sporting game with a basket and a ball where one team got it in a basket a number of times and scored a lot of points and won. I heard about that happening once.
My parents made me play sports as a kid, and I just absolutely hated it. I was terrible, and I was constantly letting down my team.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we do talk about a wide range of things sometimes.
True.
Yeah, speaking of sports, some people in Europe, they love to throw a hissy fit about America, saying it's like, how come the highest paid person in a lot of colleges is the coach of a sports team?
And
not the
I say they've got
and
a
not-
point.
Well, to be fair though, let's be real here, and this is something that I've heard a lot of people say. Contrary to what they love to say, teachers aren't as valuable as people think they are. Teachers like to throw this big fuss about how it's like, oh, we're the most important people in society. You're not.
But the problem is, I mean, I can accept that, okay, a lot of people like to watch sports, and so they're going to rake in millions of dollars. Why do we have to keep paying our tax money for their stadiums?
Oh, yep. I mean, John Stossel did a video about it recently. A pretty good one.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, that was Robert Reich. The one of the few times I actually agree with him.
Well, John Stossel did do one about stadiums,
Yeah. I mean,
Fun
the
fact,
sports
yeah.
culture- I mean, the sports culture in a lot of places is
Remy
so strong
also-
that a lot of people.
Remy
gladly-
also did one about them, a parody of Old Town Road, which was about taking tax money to build a stadium instead of repairing the roads.
Yeah.
Speaking of wealth, I was
Fun
watching
fact,
something.
oh.
I was watching something on YouTube about how it's unfair that I'm sure the numbers are exaggerated. 6 people who are billionaires have more wealth than the rest half of the world or whatever.
Oh yeah, they
And I'm
always
like,
like to pull out BS statistics like that to
No.
fool people, everyone who doesn't understand the normal distribution.
Yep.
But like if they achieve that money legitimately, I mean,
Who
what
cares?
gives you the
Yeah.
right to come in and take it? you know?
Yeah.
Also, a lot of that is in stocks, so it's a little bit
Yeah.
misleading.
Well, yeah, the net worth doesn't mean like a big, pile of money, gold coins filling a swimming pool or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, here's a little fun fact. Like they've done studies where they've interviewed, like famous million and billionaires, and they've asked them, okay, just to have a quick question, just out of curiosity. We won't take anything, but what's in your wallet right now? Like, what do you have in your wallet right now? Almost all of them have no money in their wallet, just IDs.
Yep.
IDs and business cards.
Or credit cards or debit cards.
Yep, if I recall correctly, Bill Gates, all he had was a crisp $100 bill. Elon Musk only had $40, mostly in fives. This other guy I can't remember, he had no cash on him at all, just his ID and some of the in his security clearance. Probably the most interesting case though with was Warren Buffett. When they asked what was in his wallet, there was no cash in his wallet, but there was his McDonald's lifetime rewards card.
Yeah, and they're so surprised when they find out that these millionaires don't drive limousines everywhere. They're just driving around in Hondas, and they shop at Walmart. And
yeah, like Donald Trump himself said, the only time he ever carries like physical cash on him is when he goes out on lunch dates with business owners.
Yep.
I saw a screenshot of the Federal Reserve website saying that FedNow is not going to be a currency and will not replace the dollar or cash. Yeah.
They're
Trust
going
that
after
as far
cryptocurrencies
as I
hard,
can throw it.
man. They're going after them hard. It's just the SEC is yet another one that's just making up the law as they go along. This is symptomatic of the entire Biden administration. People are talking about, the ATF, how they're just making up gun laws to just go after everyone. But it's not just guns, because you talk to my wife with her store, the ATF has all these crazy rules about how alcohol has to go on the shelf and stuff like that. And if someone takes alcohol off the shelf, takes it through the line and decides not to buy it, and they have to restock it and put it on the shelf, all sorts of crazy things they have to do.
Yeah.
Why are they so obsessed with SBR weapons anyway? Like, I mean, I guess because they're more concealable, they're more dangerous.
Because they got to go after something.
No, it's racism. It's racism. There were a couple of bank robberies by Italian Americans with a sawed-off shotgun. And there was a huge bigotry against Italians in those days.
Oh, yeah.
It's all bigotry and racism. It's what it all goes back to.
So the new left is correct on that, huh?
I'm not sure what you mean by the new left.
People who are like, everything's about race. Everything.
Well, no, because the stuff they like is the stuff that's actually about race. And all the stuff they keep saying is about race generally isn't about race. They're deflecting from it, which tells me that deep down they know it.
Yeah, by the way, there's that incident with the New York subway with Jordan Leary, and some people were asking, it's like, well, how come to libertarians, it's wrong for the police to put someone in a chokehold and get away with it, but when a civilian does it, it's okay. It's like, because if you actually pay attention, the guy actually was not using too much force. It was legitimately an accident, and unlike that police officer that did that to. What was his name? George something.
George Floyd. Yeah.
Yeah. Unlike the officer which did that to George Floyd, who was actually not only not laying off, he actually was making it even worse by putting his knee on his thing. The guy that accidentally killed Jordan Neely, when he realized Jordan Neely was suffering some sort of medical distress, he immediately stopped and actually put him in a position and actually started asking people, hey, this guy's having a medical emergency, someone help him.
Well, what happened was he kept him in the chokehold as long as he was resisting. All he had to do was stop fighting, but he kept fighting him. When he stopped fighting him was when he released him. And after he released him, right after that was when he noticed he was in some kind of medical distress.
Yeah.
And that's according to all the witnesses, as opposed to George Floyd, where all the witnesses were going like, look, you got the guy, cuff him and put him in the back of the car already.
Yeah. And not to mention when he was having when George Floyd said, it's like, something's wrong with me, bro. I can't breathe. Something's wrong with me. What they should have done is immediately got on the radio and is either rushed to the hospital or at the very least got on their radio and say, hey, we've got a person in custody. He's having some sort of medical emergency. We need medevac easily. No, they just said, oh, he's faking it.
Yeah. They were laughing about it. That did not help. Did not help them in the eyes of the public at all.
Yeah, if I recall
And
correctly,
they're kind
that's
of
the
laughing,
officer that,
oh, he's a big tough guy, isn't he? Oh.
yeah, if I recall correctly, like there was a guy, like I saw a video where George Floyd was screaming, "Officer, I can't breathe, I'm suffocating," and the officer was looking at people that were telling him do something, saying, "See, people, this is why you don't do drugs."
I don't remember that part.
Mm.
I like watching 24 because it's entertaining, but it's has some frightening implications of what it seems like it's promoting. Like in the right circumstances, torturing someone is acceptable.
Yeah. I never liked that show.
Well, to be fair, and this is something you have to tell yourself, that's a TV show. That almost never happens, That's the thing I hate about a lot of those TV shows is that they show, the audience clear as the day. Yeah, we know this guy did it, so when so it makes it easier to sympathize because when the judge is like, well, we can't give you without a warrant, it's easier to say, dude, he did it. But the fact of the matter is, in real life, you don't know that. There's been
I
quite
remember
a few.
the movie The Siege with Denzel Washington and Bruce Willis was about the subject of torture, and there's this great speech Denzel Washington gives to him about how we absolutely cannot resort to torture and all of that, and
Yeah.
it was really good. And at the time, this was pre 9/11. At the time, people were saying, "Oh, that's completely unrealistic. The U.S. isn't going to do any torture or anything like that." A few years later, guess what was going on?
Yep, and the
Well,
irony, yep, and the cruel irony, and this has actually been something that has actually plagued the U.S. government and military for a long time. Is that well, yes, the terrorist was an Islamic extremist. It wasn't one of the groups they were going after. It ironically was, spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't seen the movie, it was one of their own informants.
but I mean, if someone, if you're being tortured, if they think you did it, there's no way to prove that you're innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because eventually you'll probably end up confessing to something you didn't do.
Oh yeah, that happens to police all the time.
That's all it's good for. That's all it's good for is for getting someone to say what you want them to say, not actually getting at the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing, by the way, with these police interrogation techniques.
Yeah.
They're designed to wear you out so that you'll say whatever they want you to say just to let you go.
I mean, South Park did that. I mean, South Park did an episode back in, I think it was season 7 with the toilet paper episode. It's like, Butters, you did not toilet paper that house. Why are you making false confessions? You were with us the entire time. Well, I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. They held me for hours and wouldn't give me any food or water. Then they shot me up with some weird drug that made me all woozy.
Yeah.
I forgot what he used. Like, he said the proper term, but I forgot what the quote-unquote truth serum is.
I think it's sodium pentothal.
Yeah, sodium pentothal, yeah. When contrary to popular belief doesn't make you tell the truth, it just puts you in a really high state that you'll basically tell the officers anything.
I'm not following this INVU. He says, remember that one girl who was put into a cop car pack train tracks when the car, they searched her car instead of making sure she was alive. I'm not following that.
I don't know about that, but I did see this one really tragic story about a kid that he got himself trapped in his own car. I mean, granted, it sounds something stupid, but trust me, it's not. It was a fault with the design, but he got stuck while trying to retrieve something in the trunk. He got stuck between the seat and the trunk, and he was unable to move or free himself. So he called 911 for help, and they sent 2 police officers. And even though he gave them a thorough description of the car and what parking lot he was in, the police never found him, and he ended up dying, I think, of heat exhaustion or something. And security cam footage showed that the police that were sent there, they said, nope, we didn't find anything. They barely looked, they did like a brief sweep. They didn't, and even when they found the vehicle, they said they found the vehicle, but they didn't see anyone in it, so they assumed, oh, no one was in it.
But they got away with it because they have no obligation to protect and serve.
To which I gotta ask, for people that say the police, have no obligation to protect because they have to serve the community as a whole, it's like, okay, so there's this guy, he just beat up, robbed, and roped someone, right? Correct. And you're not going to take any information on what he looks like. Nope. You're not going to pursue any leads. Nope. Then how are you protecting the community?
Yeah.
Because you know what's going to happen? He's going to realize, hey, I just did all that horrible things and no one's looking for me. I'm going to do it again.
I would not shed
Yep.
a single tear if we privatized the entire police force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fun fact, I
mean,
remember-
it would work so much better with competition if you've got. I mean, how many people would voluntarily pay for a police force that does half the stuff that the police does? They'd take their money somewhere else, like that.
True.
Yeah,
I'm-
and I have a libertarian friend who posted on Facebook recently, like, let's replace the current taxation system with a GoFundMe. If you want this government service, then pay
Yeah.
for it. And if you don't agree with the government service, you have the option to not pay for it.
Yeah. So of course, some people may respond to that saying, but if you're poor, you can't afford a private police service or something like that.
Well, then what's stopping you from buying, a cheap, pistol or something and doing your own little militia and all that
I mean,
too.
that's the thing. You have the right to protect yourself and your
Yeah.
family and your property.
Whereas with the police, and I learned this the hard way, if someone's breaking into your house and you try to use a gun to stop them, yeah, they'll arrest the criminal, but they'll arrest you too.
Yep.
Yeah. You are under arrest for robbing this person who just got robbed. Wait a minute, why are you arresting me too? For recklessly discharging a firearm.
Or like the people who they say, okay, yeah, you shot the guy. He was attacking you. You were completely within your rights. It was self-defense, but we're taking you in on a gun charge.
Yeah. I think I saw a parody of that one time where an officer explains that's the proper way to do it, and it's like, listen, what if you wouldn't arrived in time? What if you wouldn't arrived in time? What if you didn't arrive in time to stop him, and he ended up robbing me and then killing me and then killing me? What then? And the officer's only response is, well, then sucks to be you. Man, like I said, going back to what happened to me, from what I understand, the police, that ended up arresting me, they actually were on my side, and they thought it was I was in the right, but apparently the decision to arrest me and press charges, it was the higher-ups' decision. They basically radioed back and from what I understand, basically said, yeah, you gotta arrest that kid because he used a gun and we don't want that.
Oh God, what was it? I'm trying to remember. I saw it the other day. There's another crazy case out of Kenosha with the horrible DA being horrible. I can't remember what it was. The same people that brought you Kyle Rittenhouse, the same people who brought you Crystal Kaiser.
Of course, they weren't.
The police are always talking about qualified immunity. Why can't civilians have qualified immunity? Like, going back to Crystal Kaiser, like, if you're a 14-year-old and you've been kidnapped and this guy's clearly going to do something, if you can escape and defend yourself, they should say that if you can prove it was legit self-defense, then any crimes you may have unintentionally broken while doing that should be dismissed. Because if I recall correctly, that's what they charged Crystal Kaiser for. It's like the reason why, the only reason why they said, oh, this had to be murder is because she wasn't legally allowed to own a gun.
The neighbors could pool their resources to buy an agency or just do it themselves, that's the thing people keep saying. It's like, well, what about all these gangs that are, taking over all these black communities because they've got guns and everything? Well, what if the residents can have guns to defend themselves?
Yeah, that's what I keep telling people. The reason why places like Chicago and all that are going to crap is not because the police are being defunded. It's because, they're saying, okay, we're not going to we're going to pull back the police. We're going to order them to stop, doing all these raids and all that. It's like, okay, so does that mean civilians will be allowed to own guns and we won't be charged for murder if we shoot someone in self-defense? Oh no, that's still going to happen. You still can't own guns, and you will be charged for assault if you defend yourself.
Yeah. It seems all the places with the strongest gun control also happen to be the worst places at enforcing it. So
Yep.
Yeah.
therefore necessitating it, but the people can't get guns. Like San
They
Francisco.
they
is another
enforce it
example.
on the people who aren't going to be the problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's a definition of a lose-lose situation.
By
I've
the way,
always
Shane,
heard. Sorry.
Shane, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I actually was talking to some people about philosophy, and I know the reason why good will always triumph over evil. And contrary to popular belief, it's not because good is good. There's actually a pretty good reason, and it can be solved with economics. Because being evil is economically unsustainable.
Yeah.
I've always heard that California is the #1 state for mass shootings. Does that also account for population?
Yep. That's per capita.
I mean, I was
and
telling
it's like the other states aren't even close.
Yeah, going back to what I said, I was talking to McPhee about this and about how the situation in Haiti, about how gangs rule, Haiti now, and I said, I know the perfect way to deal with the gang violence in Haiti. Try to get all the good people out of there and just let the gangs kill each other.
Well, the gangs have always kind of ruled Haiti. Let's be honest about
Well,
it.
I mean, eventually, because just leave them be, because eventually they're gonna destroy each other. It's gonna be like that scene from Family Guy where all the gangs are gonna be there. So it's like, where the heck everybody go? We're living in squalor now. I don't know. We robbed and murdered everyone. Now there's no one left to rob and murder. That's why evil is economically unsustainable. You're gonna run out of people to rob and murder.
Well, then I know a lot of blacks in North Carolina are not descended from slaves in North Carolina. They came from Haiti because after the uprising and after Haiti became independent, the people behind the rebellion were in charge, and then they disarmed everyone else and started being nasty to them. So a lot of them
basically,
left,
if I recall correctly, basically the Haitian Revolution, the moment it was done with, basically the newly installed government that took power, their new policy was anyone who disagrees with us, kill them. No trial, no nothing. And some historians now believe that might have contributed to why people were legitimately concerned about freeing slaves in the South, was because they were afraid that would happen in Haiti. So thanks, Haitian government.
Yeah.
Speaking
but
of,
just fun fact, that's why we have our North Carolina barbecue, because the Haitians contributed a lot to that.
Speaking of gangs, so a lot of right-wingers are pointing to El Salvador and its recent mega prisons and its crime crackdown, and saying, "See, this is why tough on crime and expanding law enforcement powers work." I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look at a lot of places like Scandinavia. Their police is pretty mellow compared. I mean, I know they've been increasing it the past couple decades, especially following the 2011 terrorist attack by Anders Breivik. But for the most part, it's still mostly a lot more mellow, and they don't have all these massive crime and gangs.
Yeah, true. I don't know, because apparently El Salvador has seen a massive drop in crime. Could it be a correlation-causation fallacy?
I think that's what it is. It's a correlation-causation fallacy,
Or they're just manipulating the statistics, because that happens.
Yeah, because they keep pointing to apparently they had 3 straight days with no homicides, and I don't know.
What's the population?
Let me look that up. 6.3 million.
Okay, so I mean, we shouldn't really expect a murder a day with that, should we?
What else is kind of ironic is that if I recall correctly, the being tough on crime is actually partially why we have MS-13, because back in the 1980s when the United States was funding a a military-backed government in El Salvador to crack down on communism, they were targeting not just the communists, but a lot of local gang members, and a lot of these gangs fled to America, and they just set up gangs there, and that's why we got MS-13.
Yeah, so one murder per 100,000 would be 63 murders a year. So if they're proud about having gone 3 days without a murder, that's pretty bad.
Well, I mean, it was previously one of the most crime-ridden countries in the world, so maybe that's impressive for them. Based on I don't know.
I don't know, but it's also really easy to improve if you're the worst, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also I will say this. I think I know a reason why a lot of gun control advocates do not want to use, third world countries or developing nations, because a lot of those third world countries and developing nations, they have tough gun rules in the book, and the reason why they don't want to is because, oh, well, they're so poor that they can't enforce them. That's why they have gun problems. To which I want to say, so you just proved your point. Prove what point? Gun laws don't work. It's like, no, they do work. No, you're treating them like they're magic incantations. Because the third world disproves that. It proves that, yeah, you can have a law in a book, but it doesn't do crap. It's just a piece of paper.
Yep.
I was watching, I think it was Tech Quickie. They just made a video about illegal internet and how some of these countries where the internet is banned or mostly banned, they will smuggle USB flash drives, and they've even created like a mesh network sometimes of Wi-Fi devices, and they're able to pretty you could try to stop something out, and they just figure out a way to go around it.
That's how human beings are. Are you going to make a part 19 to atheism and libertarianism? I can give you a very definite maybe on that. It's the same answer I've been giving for years. I got some, ideas of it, but they have to kind of gel in my head before I can sit down and write a script. So that just kind of all depends on whether or not that happens. That's just the writing process, though. I was writing one script for a short film, and with all the thinking about, the story and everything like that, and then you get to the point where you feel you're ready to write it down. I sat down to write it, and I wrote down the names of 3 characters, and that was as far as I got. I needed to think about it some more.
You should have Jedi Killian take on the forces of statism and socialism.
I don't think I want to take on Disney copyright.
Oh. Or another series. Do you have possibly any ideas for a future how to argue for?
Same answer.
Oh, yeah.
Ideas, just nothing really gelled.
I mean, with atheism versus and libertarianism, I mean, you pretty much covered all the major points.
Yeah. And it's like, what can I do that wouldn't be either repeating myself or just doing one for the sake of doing one?
Yeah.
If there's one thing I wish people could understand, it's the cult of the omnipotent state.
Been doing my best.
Yeah. Probably the dumbest debunking attempt I've ever seen an atheist do when I brought this up is that they said, well, the difference between religion and a state is that we know the government exists. But we're pretty sure God doesn't exist. And I'm like, that's not the point.
Yeah, government is just what exists are politicians and their buildings and everything, just like what exists with religion is, priests and preachers and church buildings and things like that.
Yeah, and I told them that it's like,
the belief of people. That's what government is. It's a belief.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say, yeah, that's what I even told them. I told them, it's like, dude, saying saying libertarianism is wrong because government exists. That's like saying, well, then God must exist because if he didn't, the Catholic Church wouldn't exist.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that we don't believe, you know, government is real or not. It's just that it's just that libertarians believe that, yeah, governments are real, but they're not like these people that know the answer that a lot of people treat them as.
But governments is more analogous to a religion instead of being analogous to God. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. You know, because a lot of priests and all that, they think that they have divine powers when they don't.
Yeah.
You know.
And so where do politicians get this idea that they get to initiate force over this geographical area?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the past, it used to be because of religion. Like, you know, kings used to say, well, you have to do what I say because I'm the king and I'm the most Christian person here. So,
Yeah.
so if I wasn't supposed to rule, God would have, struck me down. Nowadays,
Divine right of kings.
Yeah, nowadays it's like, I know in communist countries they took a technocratic approach, which is that, oh, we're smarter, we went to college, we read Marx, we know what to do.
Yep. Do you think it's
Yeah.
possible to be Christian while still being libertarian ANCAP? Sure, it's possible, but I can't imagine how you do it without having a lot of cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm no Christian, obviously, but I think Tom Woods or someone wrote a book titled a biblical defense of the free market or something. So I guess it is possible.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
when he's covered religion on his podcast, I've heard a lot of cognitive dissonance. So that,
Mm.
yeah.
And as a Christian myself, honestly, if you want to find something in the Bible that supports your case, you can find it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's tons of Bible. Despite what conservatives like to think, there's tons of passages in the Bible that promote communism and socialism. Like, if I recall correctly, Jesus was pissed off that that people were practicing commerce in some areas.
Yeah, and some socialists use that as an argument for their ideology that they.
I mean,
claim
I do know some communists and socialists in Latin America do that. They say, oh, Jesus was a revolutionary socialist, but that's because South America has a lot of uber strict Catholics, so they got to appease to the people.
Yeah, the greater good or the consent of the governed, or however you want to say
Yeah.
that. The magic voting. When the fact is, they can't really show you any logical, defensible system of ethics that
Yeah.
justifies it.
I mean, TIK history pointed out when he was talking about Hitler and socialism, like, so many people are like, well, if Hitler was a genuine socialist, then why did he ban all the stuff that ended up hurting the workers? It's like the same reason the communists did it, because they were so convinced that they were the right way to go, that they ultimately realized, but wait a minute, what if we are truly like a democratic society? What if people decide they don't want to be communists and they vote us out? That would prove that their idea is wrong. So what do? They say, okay, you know what? The revolution occurred. No one else can run against us because we're right.
Everyone, let me know if this is working, because all of a sudden I just got a lot of dropped frames. So everyone, let me know if this is looking.
I'm not watching the live stream. I'm just hearing the audio.
Well, the chat can do that. Speaking of chats, I need to see if anyone's chatting on Odyssey or Rumble. No one on Odyssey, no one on Rumble. All right. Lonely over there. Seems fine to me. Okay, we'll go with it.
Yeah.
If I get any more dropped frames, I'm going to drop the webcam, but
random question not related to anything we've been talking about, but I know you would ultimately be Shane, in favor of like the abolition of the welfare state entirely. But as long as it does exist, what are your thoughts on like work requirements?
I mean, that seemed to work well for Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Because he put the
That's the
work
thing. I've heard a lot of
requirements
people
in for
say they
welfare,
didn't
and
work that well.
that helped a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think a welfare system would exist in a purely anarcho-capitalist society?
Well, I mean, you'd have charities and all that stuff.
Yeah, it would just be voluntary. I mean, a lot of libertarians have even said this. Our problem with the welfare system isn't that it exists; it's that we're being forced to pay for it.
But even aside from that, the U.S. has the highest level by far, like not even close, the highest level of voluntary private social spending in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and ironically, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard from some people in Europe say one of the reasons why there's very little charity, in a lot of European nations is for two reasons. One is that because the government insists on doing everything. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, the government's doing it, we don't mind." And another reason I've also heard is because they're actually a lot more restricted in a lot of European nations.
Well, when they do things like look at Scandinavian countries, they don't understand how kind of late to the game they were with a lot of the
Yeah.
socialist stuff, and how they kept a mostly capitalist system going for a lot longer than the US or the UK. So when they started doing all of this, they had all that older wealth to draw from. And
Yeah.
And in the case of Norway, a shit ton of oil.
Then they start. Then here's another thing that they also don't tell you is that places, especially Sweden, started experiencing stagnation, and they started realizing, holy crap, maybe the socialism doesn't work. So they started weaning them off, and they're actually moving away from that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there like an average number that people are asking for the idea of UBI, or is it kind of all over the place?
That's all over the. They don't have any. It's not based on logic. You think there's any logic there? There's no logic.
I want to go to like one of these.
They're
socialist
thinking about how much money they would like to have is what they're thinking about.
I want to go to like one of these socialist conferences and tell them like one up whatever they're trying to do. Oh, you want 10,000? Why not 100,000? Why not 1,000,000? Why are you being so stingy? Why are you being so cheap?
I did the same thing with the minimum wage. Oh, it should be $15 an hour. Well, why not $100 an hour? Why not $1,000 an hour? Why not $1,000,000 an hour? What, do you hate the poor or something? Let's make everyone rich. And then they understand why that won't work. Oh, but 15 will work. Well, you understand the effect with $1,000 an hour. Why don't you understand it with $15 an hour?
You know what else is a fun fact about Europe that a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of people are like, Europeans, they have all these nice benefits and all that, and they get all this paid much. I wish we had labor laws like Europe, only to realize Europe doesn't actually have a lot of European nations don't actually have those labor laws. Like, fun fact, a lot of European nations, they don't have mandatory minimum wages.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they're generally negotiated.
Or mandatory union membership or anything like that.
Yeah, you know.
The thing is, they seem to want to copy all the wrong things from Europe. Like they don't want like, a lot of their business friendly policies that places like Sweden have. Oh, but they do want like ludicrous food regulations and requiring companies to use like
fun fact, people. Yes, Denmark did have a strict food regulation and things like fat taxes, but guess what happened? They repealed them after less than a year. Why? Because they didn't work.
Yep.
I will give Scandinavia credit for that. They're one of the few places where they will actually consider, maybe the fault is on their policy, not on something else. Like a perfectly good example going back is, the 2011 terrorist attack. When that thing occurred, there were people within the Norwegian government saying we need tougher gun laws, but the Norwegians, a lot of them rightfully said, no, the reason why so many people died wasn't because of gun laws, it's because our police was was because we were idiots. We gave our police orders to stay in Oslo to search for bombs when it was pretty clear there were no bombs in that area and there was a guy on an island shooting up a bunch of kids. No joke, that's literally what happened.
Has anyone here seen Reason TV Crime Squad?
I haven't seen that one.
It's pretty funny. Check it out. It's these really dumb laws that don't make any sense, but they're still on the books.
Who's in that one?
Well, they're being played by puppets, so I don't know who
Oh,
is starring in it.
I love the ones that Andrew Heaton and Austin Bragg do. They're funny.
You know, I once thought I wish I could draw because I have this funny idea for a parody of the Peanuts comic, which shows Lucy Van Pelt with Charlie Brown, and she's about to give bad advice when suddenly a guy in a suit comes up and says, "Are you Lucy Van Pelt? Hell?" And she's like, "Yeah, why?" "Yeah, you're gonna have to come with me," and he arrests her, and she's like, "Wait a minute, why are you arresting me?" "Oh, you committed a horrible offense. You're practicing psychiatry without a license. Oh, what has the society come to?"
Ironically, that's the kind of thing she would do to Charlie Brown.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she would. Yeah, like that one time. Where she tricked Charlie Brown by saying, "Don't worry, I signed a document. It's all signed. There's all these witnesses here. I will not move the football. I will not move the football." Then she moves the football anyway. Then she's like, "Oh yeah, that's right. None of these people are technically lawyers, so it technically wasn't notarized."
No, it wasn't notarized. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't notarized.
Yeah, I remember laughing so hard at that.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess the big news as of late, I know it's over now, is the whole skirmish over the debt ceiling.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, at least we won't have to put up with Joe Biden lying on Twitter about it anymore.
Mm.
Oh, the Republicans are going to make it so we can't raise the debt ceiling. Okay, first of all, if only.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of money, I wanted to thank you, Shane, for introducing me to Dash cryptocurrency.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's been nice. It's been nice buying things and having a reasonable transaction fee, sometimes a penny or less.
Yeah. And instant. How fast it is.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, everyone say, "Oh, well, you should use Monero because it's private." It's like, yeah, if you can get instant payments worked out.
Honestly, I'm willing to believe that I'm of the increasingly popular opinion that Biden might be senile and the government's the Democrat Party's just covering it up.
No, he was always cardboard cut out for the deep state, just someone they can prop in front of a microphone.
Yeah. Yeah, like I was telling a friend of mine earlier because he brought up Joe Biden. It's like it wouldn't surprise me if after his speeches, were done and recording, he still keeps rambling on, and his Secret Serviceman comes up and says, "Mr. President, your speech ended 2 hours ago." And Biden's response is, "Huh? You're not my wife. Where am I?"
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
There's been a number of times where he's supposed to go up to like the lectern and start delivering a speech, and he just kind of wanders around like he doesn't know where he is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad. It's just you kind of hate what they're doing to the guy. Just let him, be taken care of in a nice home somewhere. Give him a nice, comfortable life, and don't do that to him.
And people thought Bush was bad.
I mean, I will say this about Bush though. One thing I do say I kind of like about Bush, that guy could take a joke. When people made fun of him, when people made fun of him, he just laughed along with them. Nowadays, when you make fun of a politician, he personally attacked me. I'm scared. I'm fearful for my life. I'm having a panic attack.
Bush, I mean, this is from someone who hated George W. Bush on almost everything. But the guy was not dumb like they were making him out to be. He was a really smart guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He also took having a shoe thrown at him pretty well.
Oh, he dodged
yeah.
those shoes. That was pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing too. He just slapped Alon about that incident. He didn't go on Twitter and go, "Someone threw a shoe at me. Oh, there's this conspiracy to kill me," like a lot
I
of
don't even know.
politicians are doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a pretty famous example about how he could take a joke and like that was that during that one debate when I think it was Al Gore tried to get up in his face, to try to intimidate him, and he got right up in George W. Bush's face, and George just looked at him and said, "Oh, hi there."
Yeah.
Basically, just waved at him.
That
Yeah.
was something that really, his popularity surged after that, because Gore was trying to be like this big man and puff out his chest, and
Yeah.
Bush was trying to just went,
Yeah.
and then kept on.
So yeah, you
talking.
gotta give credit where credit is due.
Yeah,
That's another thing. To be fair, that's another thing I hated about the anti-Bush era that always kind of irked me, because I wasn't the big Bush fan either, but I always felt was something wrong, and then I realized why. Looking back now, it's because people hate him for all the wrong reasons.
yeah.
Yeah, like don't get me in all honesty, if I mean, granted, they probably still would have found a reason to hate him, but if he did not take us to the Iraq War, I think a lot of Democrats wouldn't have even given a crap, because that's all they focused on. All they focused on was the Iraq War, and yeah, the Iraq War was
They
terrible,
were behind
but
the Iraq War.
yeah,
They were completely in
the most
favor
vocal
of it.
proponents of them were of it were like people like Hillary Clinton and John Kerry and Joe
Yeah.
Biden.
What do y'all think of the idea that Dick Cheney was the one pulling the strings, making the real decisions?
Nah.
nah.
Him and I guess.
I mean, he was doing more than most vice presidents do, but
Yeah.
he wasn't like Bush wasn't his puppet or anything like that.
Yeah. I heard someone say a joke. The only reason Cheney got the role for VP was to prevent people from assassinating Bush, because he would say, "Hey, listen, any of you people who really hate me, if you assassinate or impeach me, this guy takes over. Do you want that?"
Oh, they are trying to keep Kamala Harris in hiding, I think, because
Yeah.
it's like every time she shows up at like some public event or something, she does something absolutely horrible that make people realize, and then they kind of have to make her disappear again
Yeah.
for a while.
Oh man, I remember someone did a meme about the basketball player, and Kamala Harris was all up in arms about that, and they were like, "Okay, good job. Now release all the people you put in prison."
Yep.
Mm.
Or
I
all
will-
the
I will
people
say-
she kept in prison after they were supposed to be released.
Yeah, I know that's another horrible thing about the American criminal justice system. Even if you are proven innocent beyond a shadow of a doubt, they still keep you in for a while. It's like, wow, you've been proven to be 100% innocent, and you're not, and you're completely guilty. Okay, so are you gonna unlock the cell so I can get out of here? Yeah, about that. We got to keep you in here for a few more weeks.
Oh man, it was eye-opening. There was a case in North Carolina, like back in the 90s, I think.
Yeah.
This guy was supposed to have like done this double homicide or anything and had these witnesses against him. Turns out, not only was he in jail on unrelated charges at the time of the murder, so talk about your perfect alibi, but it turns out the witnesses against him were the ones that did it. He was on death row when all this came out. And so, I mean, the guy is like 100% innocent, and it still took 2 years to get him released, with the state of North Carolina still trying to kill him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
And all
Yeah,
the courts care about is, did you have a free trial?
Yeah.
Or a fair trial, or whatever.
Yeah,
You
no
had a
joke.
fair
I've heard-
trial. Well, no, I didn't, because witnesses lied. But it was still a fair
Yeah.
trial.
Yeah, I mean, it should be, if you are proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to be completely innocent, don't even bother with the paperwork. Go straight to the cell door, unlock it, give them all his stuff back, and apologize profusely. Yeah, let him go.
They should be made to pay restitution for all the years they imprisoned him.
Yeah. And some people are like, well, don't they already do that? No, you have
Nope.
to sue to get that.
Nope.
Yeah, you have to sue to get that.
And even then, the chances are you don't get it.
Yeah. And if they do give you something, it's going to be like pathetic. It's like, okay, here's $10,000.
Yeah.
It's like that's not going to make up for the several decades I spent behind bars when I couldn't be working. Because that's another thing too.
Well-
That's another problem with the American justice system. If you get arrested, any debts or accumulabilities you have, they don't go away.
Yeah. But even if they do give you like enough to make up for it, they don't pay for it. They just take it from the taxpayers.
Yeah.
Oh, and there was this other guy. He was like 20 years old or something when he was convicted of a crime he didn't do. Finally got released when he was in his 60s. I mean, that's basically his whole life gone. And they interviewed the prosecutor about it, and the prosecutor is like, "Well, this is proof that the system works." It's like, "Well, then what does it look like when it's broken?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also of the camp that I do agree. Like there should be a rule that says like if you are testifying in a criminal, in a criminal court, and it's found out that you made up the charges or you falsely accused and it's been proven you made them up, you got to serve the sentence the person would have served if they got convicted.
Yep.
So
That's
if you
how I
accuse
feel.
someone, so if you accuse someone of raping you and it's proved you did not rape them, then you're the one going on trial. You're going to get charged with sexual assault, and you got to go on the sex offender list.
Yep. Oh yeah,
people feel
including the sex offender list. Yep.
Yep.
You got to
I'm
go
willing to bet-
around every time you go to a new place. You got to go around door to door and tell everyone you falsely accused someone of rape.
Yep. The irony is that if we do that, we might actually see legitimate prison reform because people are going to be like, you know what, we don't want to do this. How about, that law that, that got passed, because that caused all this controversy? Let's just get rid of it. Let's not enforce it anymore.
Video's still good. I'm seeing more dropped frames.
I was really proud of my home state of Mississippi for decriminalizing marijuana and passing medical marijuana,
That's cool.
despite the protestations of our governor.
Yep.
It's something like now I think it's like 3/4 of North Carolinians are in favor of medical marijuana, and they still won't pass it.
Yeah. Legalizing weed and sports gambling are probably my state's only political decisions in recent years that I can appreciate.
And it's like, oh, but if we legalize marijuana, our whole community is going to be flooded with hippies.
Undesirables.
Yeah.
Which
The deplorables. You remember that one?
Yeah. Well, I hate to break it to you, Mr. Governor. We have these strict drug rules, and we still have deplorables in our state. Have you been to the Capitol Street? There's homeless people everywhere.
Yeah, monarcho-liberal. Their frame drops, so they probably won't be affecting the audio, but the video is. You know what? I'm just gonna go off cam. We'll do this audio.
Did you say anarcho-liberal?
Minarcho-liberal. This guy in the chat.
Oh, Minarcho.
That's his username.
Yeah, some people say, oh, that's an oxymoron. You can't be a liberal and anarchist. Yeah, you can, if you're a classical liberal.
Yep.
Yeah, people fail to realize liberal didn't used to mean you were progressive and left-leaning. It used to mean you were in favor of free markets, limited government, and the like.
Yeah.
Well, there are people who claim to be socialist and anarchists. I don't know how that's supposed to work, but they claim it.
Yep. Yeah, and it's pretty funny because when you press, anarcho-syndicalists and anarcho-communists enough, you kind of inadvertently get them to admit that, yeah, we would have to have a state in our society.
Yeah. They just don't want to call it that. They call it the syndicate or the
Yeah.
Oh God, what's another term they use? They have their own terms for it.
Yeah, like the the workers' union and all that, and like they talk about how it's like, oh, we'll have a workers' union composed of this, that, and this, that, and I'm like, so you want a government? No, this isn't a government. This is a workers' union, but it's a group of people getting together and arbitrarily creating and enforcing laws. Yeah, but that's not a state. That's a workers' union.
It's a state by any other name.
Yeah.
I feel like U.S. politics can be boiled down to trying to keep people safe from themselves. just
Pretty much,
on
yeah.
different issues.
Yeah.
Also in the news is apparently the Taliban is trying to attack Iran. Oh boy.
Lovely.
Yeah.
With our weapons.
Yeah, true. I'm gonna tell this to the Taliban. It's like, listen, guys, in the 1960s and 70s, Iraq went to war with Iran with some of the most advanced Soviet and European weapons he could buy off the black market, and he still failed, and Saddam still failed.
Oh, I think that was in 1986, actually.
Yeah, the Iran-Iraq war.
Wasn't he backed by the U.S.?
Well, yeah,
he was getting help from a lot of nations. The Soviet Union was giving him weapons. Germany was giving him weapons. China was giving him weapons.
Oh crap! Hold on.
How crappy do you have to be to lose then?
Well, to be fair, the reason was because, well, to be fair, the Iranians didn't do any better because while they did repel the Iraqis when they tried to invade Iraq, they got bogged down and hit. Basically, it was the idiots leading the idiots. Basically, it was Saddam Hussein, who had minimal military experience, trying to dictate the army, and then you had the Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are your guys' opinions of homeless camps in places like SF and LA? Some say it's a bad idea because it's a fire hazard. I mean, fix the problem of homelessness and then you then you don't have that problem.
I mean, it kind of goes back to self-defense laws. Like so many people were like, yeah, but what about those homeless people that are crazy and are causing legit harm to people? It's like, well, that's why you allow, self-defense laws. I mean, yeah, it sucks, if you have to hurt or, heaven forbid, kill a homeless person in self-defense, but that's just how it is.
Also, I'm sure you've I think Reason once posted a video about some musician who built a bunch of like micro houses for homeless people, and the city told him to stop.
I had a friend who was
they were too dangerous.
Yeah.
Compared,
I had a friend who was like way crazy Marxist communist, and he was telling me that not even the police should have firearms. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to take away the guns from the police, and they're going to go around and take away guns from people who have guns, but you don't have guns to defend yourself or assert your authority to take their guns.
Maybe, maybe he's saying they take the guns and then then the police give up theirs. I don't know.
I think what a lot of these people want is that they don't want, to defund the police or anything. They just want to have the ability to do whatever they want, whenever they want, without facing the consequences.
I mean, that's it.
Because that seems what they tend to be like. There's all these people out there that are saying, "Let's defund the police," and then they try to riot or loot a place, and then someone shoots back, and they're like, "Why is that person stopping me from robbing the place?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's totally unfair.
Yeah.
They should support my right to loot everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, yeah, people, I'm in favor of, decreasing the power of the police, but that doesn't mean you have the right to go around and loot and pillage everywhere, because people still have the right to defend their property. So, I mean, there was one comedian that one time, where I don't know if it was Bill Cosby or something, but he was doing this thing about how it's like, all these people are like, did you hear about, that kid that tried to rob a place and he got his head smacked by the store owner because a fight broke out, and it was all because he caught the kid trying to steal candy, and everyone's like, what? The shop owner tried to stop that kid from taking candy? Why? And the comedian goes, but nobody ever stops to ask, why the heck was that kid stealing candy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Napoleon the War made a point once about how you having a gun to defend yourself versus someone trying to hurt you and they don't have a gun, it's a big disadvantage, and that's the point. That's
the point. I mean, not the most physically fit person, if I own a store and there's like this big guy like who bench presses 250 pounds as a light warm up, and he's saying, "Yo, dude, give me all your cash or I'm gonna beat the crap out of you." Like, I don't stand a chance against him if I don't have a weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna beat me. He's gonna beat me to a pulp, and he's gonna take the cash anyway.
Yeah.
And some people are always like, "Oh, but if we make guns easier to buy, then criminals will just buy the guns." Well, so will the freaking people. Don't you remember that scene from Aladdin where Abu got that sword and everyone's like, oh no, he's got a sword, and they're all scared. He's like, "You idiots, we all got swords."
Also, criminals will get guns anyway.
Yeah, they get guns anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, criminals famously don't really like following laws.
Yeah, I mean,
Imagine
Kind of
that.
insane.
John Stossel interviewed a bunch of criminals, that were in prison or had served time in prison. It's like, oh, but if guns are illegal, we're in certain areas. Like, where do you get them? It's like, we get them the same place where we get our drugs and all our other shit. We get them from a source.
We get them from the same place we get fentanyl and everything else.
Yeah, yeah. It's very easy to get it's very easy to get a gun on the street. All you got to do is go to a local drug dealer, ask them, "Hey, do you got any other merchandise?" And there's a pretty good chance they'll either have other merchandise for you, or they'll say, "I don't have other merchandise, but give me $50 in a couple days and I'll hook you up with a guy that has it."
I mean, I was all for ending the drug war until the fentanyl thing happened, and it's totally different now.
Yeah, the fentanyl thing wouldn't be happening without the drug war.
Yeah. Well, we brought it up. The reason why people are dying on fentanyl is not because it's a dangerous, vile drug that's programmed to get you addicted until you kill yourself. It's because people can't get the medicine they need, so they get it from a questionable source. And the person who's making the fentanyl is like some backyard, drug cooker who doesn't know how much to put in it. Whereas if fentanyl wasn't so heavily restricted, if people wanted to get a hold of it for chronic pain, they would go to a doctor, and the doctor would do a thorough examination and say, "Okay, here's your body structure. Here's how much you should take." Black market dealers don't do that.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, it sucks to hear those stories about those teens and all that overdose. But the sad reality is that had you been living in the 1920s, they probably would have that same thing about those them with whiskey.
Yeah.
I mean, call me kind of a cynic and all that though, but I kind of hate it. Like, I especially see it on Dr. Phil. I hate like those like anti-drug PSAs where they talk about it's like how, oh, my son overdosed, and he was a great student, he was a great person, and he did all this and that, and then he got into drugs. Honestly, part of me thinks it's like, honestly, I think you didn't know your kid as well as you thought you did.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, your kid overdosing does not make you a medical expert. It does not make you an expert on addiction. It does not make you an expert on chronic pain.
Yeah,
I sympathize, but I don't really understand what you think you have to contribute here.
Yeah. It's just like I'm not gonna lie. It's just like all those Sandy Hook people. It's like, I'm sorry what happened to your kids. I really am, but
you're not expert criminologists as a result of it.
Yeah, I mean, literally, they like to bury it a lot. But if I recall correctly, the FBI themselves flat out admitted there is nothing we can do or thing that'll actually predict or prevent mass shooters. When it comes to stuff like that, the sad reality is that the only thing we can do is we got to treat them like natural disasters. Keep an eye out for them and be prepared for when they happen. Because the sad reality is that you can't predict these guys.
Yeah, Columbine, which kind of kickstarted this whole thing of school shootings. They were underage. They got a friend to buy them the guns. How are you going to stop that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the episode of, I guess, I'm sure you've heard of the show Penn and Teller's BS.
Yeah.
In their episode
Yeah.
on gun control.
Yep. I
They
got all
specifically
those.
mentioned there was a ton of regulations that the two kids broke already.
yeah.
So yeah,
The assault weapon.
Sorry.
Not to mention the assault weapons ban of '94. which
Oh yeah,
was
it
in
happened
place at the
right in
time.
the middle of that.
Oh yeah, that didn't. That didn't stop Columbine or the North Hollywood shootout.
Or what was that? There was another big school shooting that was supposed to be like central to the whole assault weapons thing. I can't
Well,
remember.
actually, Columbine happened after a string of much smaller mass shootings. It was sort of the culmination of it. Yeah, like there was one
Yeah.
in an Oregon shopping mall, I think, before that, and there was a few others in like universities. So yeah.
But they don't mention like the I forget which university it was. It was somewhere in Texas. This guy went up to the top of like the bell tower
Oh
or
yeah,
something and started
I've heard about
shooting.
that. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Charles Whitman, I think his name was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was I think it was an armed student that went up and took him out.
No,
He
it was the
nev-
police. It was the police, but still,
No,
it,
the one I'm thinking of it wasn't done by the police. It was someone nearby with a gun.
Well, what's interesting about the UT thing was that uh, once all the people of Texas started coming out with their guns and shooting back, he wasn't able to kill his.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know
they
if
were
it
able
was
to keep him
anyone
back.
or less people. But yeah, when people actually fired back, he couldn't do as much damage as he was doing.
yeah. In all honesty, with Charles Whitman, going back to the guy who committed that, the funny thing is that he didn't know why he did it. He wrote down, he had a diary and he wrote down, and he flat out said, I don't know why the hell I'm doing this. I'm just having this really strong desire that's making me do this. And he actually requested, when I die, I want my brain to be examined.
Yeah, and he had like some kind of tumor or something.
Yeah, they found a small tumor on his pituitary gland, and it was and like I think it was actually starting to affect him, and they ultimately concluded that it was probably messing up his impulse control. So because he was a former Marine, he had a lot of, and because he was an ex-Marine, some of those impulses he learned in the Marine were starting to leak out, and he was losing the ability to control them. And I mean, that's just the thing, people, you can't determine, what's going to be, who's going to do that kind of action.
And then you got these ridiculous things. I mean, Uvalde, like I heard people like, oh, even the police can't stop this guy, and I'm like, they could have easily. They didn't do their job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Uvalde and Newport too. Like, Newport and Uvalde. Like, I think that happened in Newport
Yeah.
too. Like, there was armed security on the basis when Nicholas Cruz carried out a shooting, and you know what they were told to do? Get out of the building. Yeah, don't pick up your gun and engage him.
Also, the Nashville shooter was stopped by police in a relatively swift manner. So yeah, it is possible.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
I will give law enforcement credit when it's due, and it was
Yeah.
due there.
Well, the problem is that law enforcement can't be there right at the moment it happens.
Yeah,
An armed citizen can
Yeah.
be.
yeah,
Yeah. The thing is, whenever you float the idea of armed citizens, people will say, "Oh my God, that's ridiculous," and immediately turn their brain off to any actual arguments.
Yeah, that's how they've been trained. It's a religion.
yeah. Going back to what you said about armed teachers in schools in Utah. It's another place that has armed. I mean, not necessarily armed teachers, but they do have armed civilians on the premise to protect kids. Israel, and they don't have a lot of school shootings.
Well, Utah has not had a mass shooting in a school shooting in like the last 20 some years when they passed that any teacher with a concealed carry license could carry in the classroom.
Well, I mean, some of these teachers are willing to like die for their kids, like put their
Yeah.
bodies
Yeah.
in front.
Yeah.
Like, why not give them something to actually take care of the shooter themselves?
A lot of them just want to be able to lock the
But
door.
instead, we
That's
have
the truth
paper
of it.
gun free
Oh yeah,
zones.
that's I think another reason too why they were blaming guns, for for Sandy Hook was because, if I recall correctly, they did an internal investigation.
Yeah.
And they found that the school was completely unsafe. Like, there's this misconception. It's like, oh, the only reason he broke into the school was because his AR-15 let him shoot through the door. It's like, no, that door wasn't properly
No.
secured itself.
Well, and they did like all these FOIA requests trying to get all of the information on it. And by the time they got the information about how, few, the things that were like standard post Columbine, like locks on the classroom doors, stuff like that hadn't been done, by the time the citizens learned about it and could do anything, they had already demolished the school.
Yep.
And that's what they were doing by delaying all these FOIA requests. They just kept delaying until they demolished the school and all the evidence is gone. And then they went, okay, here you go.
Yeah. I will say, it's the worst excuse I've ever heard people say that for that is when they talk about armed guards. It's like, so you're paranoid. You want us to live in a paranoid society. I don't want to live in a society like that. It's like, we're not paranoid.
Like, excuse me, you are living in a paranoid society. Well,
Yeah.
exactly the way you are behaving right now is completely 100% paranoid.
Yeah. Like, here's a perfectly good example I've heard people say to respond to that. It's like, look at wild animals. Wild animals, are the overwhelming majority of wild animals. They're harmless and they're not going to do anything, but I'm still not going to approach them and try to play with them. But that's not being paranoid. That's just, it's like you accept that, it's unpredictable. We're just accepting the fact that the world is unpredictable, and it doesn't hurt to have some preparedness when you encounter that unpredictability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking to your earlier point about how people think that people who were involved with or experienced major tragedies are somehow seen as automatically expert on the subject. Well, Exhibit A, David Hogg.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
did he
many
become an authority on
AR-15s?
guns? Well, where's his ballistics degree?
Yeah.
He tweeted out how many AR-15s did Jesus have, and someone responded, not enough to avoid being killed by his government.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which may not have even happened actually, but yeah, the point has gotten through.
Yeah. Imagine if he did have a gun. It'd be like that scene from Family Guy where he and Moses are holding off a bunch of Roman centurions with a couple of AKs.
Just give guns to the 12 disciples. They ain't gonna let it happen.
Well, except for that one that betrayed him.
Would he felt he have had to betray him though, if it hadn't been for that?
Yeah, that's actually another thing that a lot of people
really adequately explained why he did it.
Yeah.
I mean, sort of in the expanded universe, like the extra texts there are kind of go into.
Yeah, another thing too that a lot of
texts.
But the funny irony is that a lot of people like to use the term Judas, as an insult for a traitor. But if I recall correctly, in the book, he actually regretted his decision, and he tried, multiple times to appeal and have the charges dropped. But the Roman court was like, nope, we already charged him. We already got the process. We got to go through with him. It doesn't matter if all the witnesses are recanting their statements. Doesn't matter. And where are we seeing that today?
Yep.
Yeah. Like, no joke, I heard a story about a woman, who reported, her now son-in-law, because when he first met, her daughter, she was 16 and he was 19, and they had consensual sex, and she didn't approve of it, and she reported him to the police, thinking, okay, yeah, they'll just give them, a stern talking to and a slap on the wrist, only to find out, nope, your daughter's boyfriend, he's gonna go to jail and he's gonna be registered as a sex offender for life. And she tried multiple times saying, no, that's not what I wanted. I don't want this. I want to drop the charges. They're like, nope, it's already done now. We have to do it.
Yeah, there have been times where, and because of, Megan's Law and all that, they have to go around and talk to the neighbors and tell them what you did about your horrible rape. And there was like one time where this guy just went around with his wife and he was like, yep, we've been married for, 10 years. And he never raped me. He was falsely accused. My dad found out we were having sex and went to the police, and they got, but that's That's just
Yeah.
kind of
I mean,
that's
Tim
kind of
Pool brought
silly
up a,
when the alleged victim says it doesn't happen and they still go forward with it.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, Tim Pool actually was talking to someone about this, and they were talking about the laws. It's like about the laws, and they're like, well, we need to have sex offender laws. Because I think that I guess it was like, well, we need to have laws like that, so we don't have to resort to putting them away for life in prison. And he's like, well, it basically is a life sentence.
Yeah.
Because he can't get a gun. He can't do certain business with people. He has to be away from somewhere where he can live is restricted.
At
who he
one
can
point, they
associate-
were looking at like all the stuff, and I think it was Chicago. Like you can't live within 500 yards of a school, and you can't live within 500 yards of a daycare or a playground or this, and there was basically nowhere left in the city for them to
Yeah.
even live, because everywhere was within 500 yards of one of those places.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of agree with Tim Pool when he said this one time, is that it's like, listen, I think the moment you're released from jail, everything's restored. And the thing is, they always say, it's like, well, but what if, he reoffends? It's like, listen, if you honestly cannot trust a guy, if this guy's like clearly so dangerous that you can't trust him with rights anymore, then he shouldn't be free. Put him in prison for life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't want to do that. They want that extra punishment thrown in there.
It's a complete myth about the recidivism anyway. Most sex offenders do not reoffend.
Oh yeah, that's another thing too about a lot of those sex laws, is that you think it's like, oh yeah, it's probably full of pedophiles and rapists and all. It's like, no, a lot of people that are on it are really on there for victimless crimes. Like
there are people who are on the sex offender list for things like public urination.
Yeah, I've even heard stories like there's been people that have been put on the list, because they watched some of that Japanese animated stuff, and the characters were said to be underage. But the thing is, and I think there's been plenty of Supreme Court cases that confirm this, if it's a drawing and the drawing doesn't resemble a real person, it's technically not CP.
There has to be an actual child involved somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that stuff is disturbing, but
well, and a lot of it's like, there was just one of this posted in the Discord about someone who was making a big deal about, oh, here's this underage anime girl, and you're a pedo if you watch this and all that, and it turns out the character isn't even underage. She's like 24 or something.
Yeah. But yeah, and
I think the people who make a big deal about this, they're probably the ones you want to watch around your daughter.
Well, here's the thing, people. Who was the president that signed Megan's bill into Megan's law? Bill Clinton.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The people who are freaking out about drawings are probably the ones you should watch around actual children.
Yep. I actually posted that in a comment one time, and it got a lot of stuff. It was like a video archive of him signing into Megan's law, and I posted, isn't it ironic that that a sexual deviant signed this law, and like my like got a few up likes, although I think the video got taken down because it is so ironic,
Yep.
Yeah, and not to mention a lot of people. I think I saw a joke like that one time too, where Bill Clinton's like, where Bill Clinton, signing that into law. It's like, this will definitely protect children. And then his aide said, hey, Mr. President, Mr. Epstein is on the line for you. He wants to know when you want to set up that quote unquote, that dinner meeting. And he's doing the finger thing. He's like, let's not talk about that right now.
All right, I signed this into law, and that's great. Now, if you'll excuse me, I gotta go catch a plane ride with my friend to his private island.
Yeah.
Everyone should have a private island. That's something we should fight for that.
Everyone should be a private island. That's what.
Yeah.
I am the United States of Shane Killian.
Yeah. And then we finally catch the guy, and it's like, don't worry, we're gonna save all these people by charging him. Oh, what? He's dead? What happened? Oh, he committed suicide. Are you sure? Can't we investigate? He committed suicide!
I mean, I see the appeal of wanting to live on close to the beach and whatnot, but I'm always just like
Yeah.
hurricanes. Like,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in all honesty, going back to Jeffrey Epstein, regardless, whether or not you believe he committed suicide or whether or not he was murdered, you got to admit the security they had for him was pretty crap. Because, to be fair, he was in a position that a lot of people would consider ending their life, and it's like, and they knew about that. It's like, listen, this guy's gonna be charged with some serious charges. Like, his image is completely ruined. And then he's gonna be going on public. He's at a high risk of suicide. So you guys need to watch him to make sure he doesn't try to off himself. And what did the guards do? They fell asleep.
any theories here on John McAfee, whether he committed suicide or not?
Okay.
Well,
yeah,
isn't it the case that they still haven't released the remains or the coroner's report to his widow? That's what she claims, at any rate.
Yeah, like, wasn't there accusations at McAfee, like, that he was running that he was kind of pulling like a Jeffrey Epstein or something?
I mean, he had said, I think like a week before it happened or something, he's like, I am not in any way suicidal. If I die in here, it's not because I committed suicide.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's just a suicide and that's the thing that happens, why not release the remains to his widow?
Yeah.
Why not release the coroner's report? Why not,
Yeah. He hasn't given me the coroner's report, pictures of the crime scene. To be fair, though, to that famous case, yes, that guy was crazy and he clearly did it, but to his defense, yeah, from what I've heard, public attorneys aren't really the best at that. It's like you'll have all these charges against them, and on paper you're supposed to get all this stuff with discovery, but all you get is like a couple-page indictment.
well, if they don't turn over the discovery and they find out about that, you can actually get them in trouble.
But it
Because
rarely
they are
does.
they're supposed to turn it all over.
Yep.
And it's prosecutorial misconduct not to.
Yep. But as we demonstrated, the prosecutors only get charged with prosecutorial misconduct if they're trying to go for a mistrial. If they're caught lying or cheating or threatening witness or tampering with evidence, oh, that's fine. That's standard procedure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, evidence. Binger's still an assistant DA in Kenosha.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, that guy, that prosecutor Caliber Rittenhouse, he should have been permanently barred from practicing law. Also, he's damn lucky that I wasn't the bailiff in that trial, because that scene where he points the rifle at the jury, I would have tackled him for that.
Oh, bailiff should have tackled him right
Yeah.
at that moment. As soon as he put his finger on the trigger, they should have tackled him.
Yeah, tackled him.
So that might have made him accidentally fire.
Well, I mean, the gun wasn't loaded, but the point is, it doesn't matter,
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put a finger on and level up a gun. Yeah, you tackle the guy.
I mean, yeah, it happens on firing ranges all the time. Like, even when there's a gun that, like, there's images of, of shooting range fails, and, like, even when the gun has zero, it's clearly unloaded and has no evidence in it, the moment they pick it up and start flagging someone, the instructor walks in there, they put the gun down, do the check-in, and then they tell the person to get out.
I love that CNN clip of the AR-15 expert who clearly has never shot an AR-15 in his life. And he's talking about full semi-automatic.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Let's see. In other news, apparently Elon Musk has upsetted the EU because the Twitter doesn't follow their ludicrous hate speech laws.
Oh, well, boo-hoo.
Mm.
That's a point in Elon's favor if he gets the EU pissed off at him.
Yeah, but now...
Yeah, we need to do Section 230. Like, if you start a website, it's like, there's these people saying mean things about it on your website. Okay, what do you want me to do about it? Well, you got to stop them. Well, are they actually causing harm? Are they, like, posting, private information? Are they stalking or conspiring to commit an actual crime? Well, no. Well, then what am I supposed to do about it? And even if they are doing something illegal, that's your job, guys,
Yeah, I mean, why do social media companies have to be unpaid arms of law enforcement?
Yeah, I think I know why. It's because a lot of those police departments, they're looking for easy ways out. Like, I'm not saying they're lazy, but a lot of people like how we like to, half-ass certain jobs, because we don't want to put too much work into it. That's the same thing they're doing.
I'm wondering if the chat's frozen. I haven't seen one in a while.
All right, I think I might have to hop off at this point.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
I guess we'll-
it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what I
If,
missed.
if gun owners are cowards, what does that say about people who, damn it, the stupid emojis are in the way. I can't read who rely on other people with guns to defend them. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's like militaries, you guys are cowards. You're using all these fancy artillery and guns and all that. Why don't you man up? Get rid of all your missiles and guns, get on a horseback and start charging back cavalry style.
Right,
Yeah,
I think I've gotta hop off real quick. Yeah, I'll see you guys.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you,
that was
Sid.
like, yeah,
Thanks for
that was
dropping
one
by.
of that was one of the dumbest anti-gun comments I ever heard. It came from Ozzy Osbourne. He's like, well, if guns don't kill, if it's not the guns that kill the people, it's the people that kill the people. Then why do we send people off to war with guns? And I said, I don't know. Let's take a look at this tapestry that depicts that depicts the Battle of Hastings of 1066. What's this? No guns, just swords and spears. Okay, here's another thing. Huh? No guns, just swords and spears.
Not a
And
cell phone in sight.
conversely,
People
if
just
it's the
live in
guns that
moment.
kill, why bother with the people? Why not just send a whole bunch of guns over?
Yeah. It's like we're going to defeat the army by dropping a whole bunch of guns and missiles on there with no men. That'll save everyone's lives.
Yeah, that worked great for the Taliban,
Yeah.
didn't it?
Yeah.
Left all those guns.
Do you think we could? I don't know if it's possible, but could you foresee somehow nuclear disarmament on a large scale across the globe?
With the right incentives. I mean, do any countries really have nukes with the serious desire that they're actually going to use them? Or is it just there as to prevent everyone else from using them?
Yeah. It's really more of kind of like, the Slaughterhouse 5 scenario. We have them and, we know they're dangerous weapons and we never want to use them, but we're afraid if we don't have them, someone else will do it.
That's a good point, Mr. No, talking about Epstein was already charged and convicted of sexual assault years earlier. So if he was going to kill himself over that, why didn't he do it years before?
Well, to be fair, that might have been during the time where if you had the right connections, then it was okay for sexual assault. Like, I remember there was that one famous celebrity, who, she was all gun ho about, how we need to crack down on child predators, and she was supporting the Me Too movement. Then people pointed out, yeah, but you were part of an actors group that defended Roman Polanski when it was confirmed that he assaulted a child. You were part of the board that actively protected him.
Yeah, but I mean, they hadn't protected him. He had been convicted. If gun owners are cowards, what does that say about people who rely on other people with guns to protect them?
Yeah, that's what I was responding to. Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's why I'm like, oh, well, then the military and the police are cowards. Hey, military, get rid of your guns. Pick up a sword and a lance and go back on the horseback rides. I will say Japan is one of the few, is one country where I will give it kudos for. It's one of the few countries where they're kind of upfront about why they have a gun ban. It's not, they don't have their gun laws, and it's pretty clear, their gun laws were never about protecting the populace. It was never about ensuring public safety. It was all because Emperor Meiji didn't want any rival political groups being armed and overthrowing him.
Yep.
Yeah. That's all it was. It was the new military class that took over when Emperor Meiji was reigned. They didn't want any competition, so all weapons belong to the military, belong to the emperor now.
And now I don't know if the chat's frozen again.
I mean, yeah, gun laws don't stop don't stop the Yakuza from carrying out the occasional armed robbery and shootout, but details.
Well, I seem to have lost one with that refresh. I don't know what. Oh, it's back on top.
Anyone playing any interesting video games?
I played the Resident Evil 4 remake.
What'd you think?
It's good.
Some of these people that want to ban guns, some of them look like people that would let their loved ones be victimized, even if they had the means to defend them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that think it's better for you to just be. It's better for a woman to be found, dead with her own panties being used to strangle her, than having her to explain why the guy that was trying to rape her has a bullet in his head. I saw one interesting person that says they have a theory of why so many leftists want guns banned. It's because, and it goes back to the idea of victimhood, because they get a hard on off of victimhood, but guns are empowering, and if guns reduce crime, then they have nothing to complain about a victimhood about.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want to.
Well,
yeah, they don't want to.
They get more leverage out of mass shootings than anyone. They don't want them to stop.
Oh yeah.
That's their whole political justification. They're not going to do anything to actually reduce those.
Yeah. I mean, hell, didn't the ATF deliberately give a bunch of guns to the Mexican cartels?
Oh yeah, Operation Fast and Furious.
Yeah. I mean, the official rhetoric is that, well, we were trying to use it so we could trace them, but they lost touch out of them. Although some people think it's like, no,
we couldn't even trace them.
Yeah. But honestly, even if it's true that they weren't, even if it is true that that the ATF wasn't giving them to empower the cartels to give them more power, it still doesn't help the ATF. It makes them look incompetent. Like, there's so many people that say, oh, if we only had like these tags or something that would stop that that would allow us to identify a gun. It's like, people, there's a little thing called a soldering iron.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you see that on a lot of
how easy it is to remove serial numbers.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a common thing you see on a lot of confiscated weapons. If you notice, you see all these rough patches around the guards and all that. That's them soldering off the serial mark. Once the black market people get a hold of the gun, they immediately take off the serial number.
Yep.
Or
they just make a new one without it.
One.
Yeah.
Just manufacture one like the assassin in Japan did.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not difficult. Hate to break it to you, but it's not.
I mean, I did see a dark meme about that said, where it showed that prime minister, and it's like, and he's going, Japan has very strict weapon laws, and we do not see the same level of mass political violence that we see in America, only to be shot by a guy with a homemade matchlock pistol.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what about that thing that California actually had in its law? I think it finally got struck down in the courts, but it basically made all guns illegal because it required them to, when a gun is fired, to put microstamping of the serial number on the cartridge, which no one on the planet knows how to do. That technology does not exist. And they
even
mandated it on weapons.
and even if it did, I mean, it's like there now. If a criminal uses his gun, there's no way he can get away with it now. Ever heard of picking up the bullets?
Yeah, you can retrieve the casing, or you can just take the gun apart, take that part out, and just have the regular firing pin.
Yeah, it's literally impossible to enforce.
I mean, gun owners regularly take their guns apart to clean them.
Yeah. And
I saw a couple of videos, and I like things like this. Not necessarily with guns, but I just like seeing things take shape. There was he did it with the 1911. I think he did it with an old flintlock, but it was like found to be old and it was like completely rusted over. And it actually shows, sometimes in real time, sometimes sped up, but how he actually went through and got it apart and got it cleaned up and got the rust taken off and rebuilt and everything back into a functioning weapon with a test fire and everything.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
I mean, yeah, and actually there's another thing, and there's also another thing too that, the micro tracing doesn't account for is, what if the gun was legitimately bought and purchased, but then got stolen? Like, they trace it by and it's like, it was you. You're the owner. It's like, it was you. You're the one who robbed the bank. It's like, hell no. I mean, yeah, I had the rifle, but someone broke into my car and stole it. And, it's confirmed, yep, his car was broken into. They had the police reports. So it doesn't matter,
Counterfeit M16s were found in cartel armories. Many speculate they were from the Khyber region in Pakistan, because Pakistan is a massive opium smuggling hub. Yep.
Oh yeah, it's another country. It's another country that has access to the M16 rifle, even though on paper they shouldn't have access to it. North Korea.
Yep.
Yep, they've been
in all of these where they're just manufacturing them themselves. What are they manufacturing? I mean, it's not AR-15s. It's going to be the fully automatic stuff. If you're going to break gun laws, you might as well break them big.
Oh yeah, I mean, North Korea has the M16, and there's pictures of North Koreans with M16s, and people, and there's been interviews with people that specialize, in the DMZ area, and they're like, where are the North Koreans getting these M16s from? It's like, well, some of them were given to them by defecting Americans, but the most likely reason is that they probably got a hold of some captured ones from, from other communist groups, that were fighting an army that was U.S. equipped, and they got a hold of them, and they produced them in limited numbers for their special forces.
I will be willing to listen to you about gun control if you can describe to me, using actual terms, what an assault weapon actually is.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, really, the term assault rifle was just a butchering of the German word Sturmgewehr.
Assault rifle is a thing. Assault weapon is not.
Yeah. The only thing that was ever called an assault weapon by the industry was the rifleman's assault weapon, which was a grenade launcher. Hopefully 3D printing in metal will eventually render gun control dead and buried. Well, I mean, look at what they're doing with cryptocurrency now. Look at what they're doing with, everything else. They're just going to get more and more intrusive the more and more we're able to do stuff on our own.
Yep.
That
An assault weapon
actually
is a
makes
weapon
me
that looks scary.
wonder-
Yep, that's it. What's that?
That makes me wonder about encryption. I've heard that if you use encryption, what's it called where you put data into like a photo or something?
Steganography.
Steganography. Is that detectable, or
Yeah.
what do you?
I mean, there's
is?
ways to try to hide it, but it's not security; it's obscurity. The idea is hopefully they won't know to look in that image to begin with.
Right.
So, I mean, you have it encrypted, which looks like noise. And so then you just put it in the low order bits of the pixels until it runs out. Then for the rest of them, you put actual noise in, and then it just looks like a very slightly noisy picture.
Right.
But I mean, if they're looking for it, they can figure it out.
Even if it's encrypted.
Well, I mean, they'll figure out that there's an encrypted blob there. Now, decrypting it is another matter.
Right.
But yeah, the point of steganography is that there's not an encrypted file there that says, "Hi, I am an encrypted file." You're hiding it in a photo or something else. You can hide it in all sorts of things, audio, video, whatever.
Yeah.
But the idea is that they won't know to look there for it. Which, if your encryption is up to snuff, it wouldn't matter. You should just be able to put your encrypted file on a USB stick, walk up, plop it on the desk, and say, "Here you go, good luck." And they still wouldn't be able to get it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Military grade encryption.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing I want to say. Like, you know, because I was having a conversation with someone about the F-35 fighter and how with a you know, with a plane that's so reliant on, you know, electronics and wire connections, you know, would that thing have any cybersecurity? It's like, oh, that's not going to be a problem. You can't hack it. It's like, okay, then why doesn't the U.S. Air Force post the F-35s and, you know, data, you know, into the public and say, go ahead, people, try to hack into an F-35.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing about a lot of the DRM crap that they've done, which Tim Berners-Lee, you know, violated every principle he set up with the web by allowing in. Because they were just saying, okay, just make one exception for cybersecurity researchers so that they can look at these algorithms and make sure that, you know, they can't find any security holes in it. Wouldn't even budge that much. Let's see, they'll want to outlaw 3D printer as well as guns. Yes, they would, but it has too many open source parts, too many applications, too many materials. Yeah, but they'll just make it a banned substance, and then it's yet another reason to bust into your house and shoot your dog and everything.
Yeah.
I remember when, I mean, I don't remember, but I've heard stories of when encryption, the government was really trying to clamp down on it because they didn't want it to leave the country, so they declared munitions and.
Oh yeah, yep. I remember all that. I was there for all that. I was part of that fight. I was back in the 90s. That was more Bill Clinton stuff. They said you can't export encryption, so they were printing the algorithm on T-shirts and walking through airports and through customs. Well, it's
information wants to be free.
Yep.
You know what? I know the perfect way to prove people that their hypocrisy of the government. If I ever become a president, I'm gonna lobby Congress to pass a law banning the laws of gravity. And then when gravity still activates, we're going to arrest the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To hold the Earth in contempt of Congress.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there was that famous, you know, I don't know if he was real or not. There was that famous, you know, king, you know, Viking king that tried to prove people, you know, it's like, listen, I may be a king, but laws don't have supreme meaning. And he literally went up to the seashore and shouted to the ocean, "Ocean, I am the king of this kingdom, and you will not allow the tides to come in." And what happened? The tides came in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But seriously, there are so many politicians where they think that, you know, all they have to do is point and say, "This is a law, now do it," and it's going to happen.
Yep. All right, it's 5 minutes after our time to stop. So, any parting shots?
Nope. Nice chatting with you guys.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I changed my name to match my YouTube. So.
All right, everyone, go check out Darth Vega 21's YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Shane. A couple of last minute chats in. If the government derives its power from the people, then the people can own any gun the government has. Yeah, that's the principle. That's exactly it. But if the government can
Just
own
wanna
any guns the
say-
people can't, then that means the government gets its power from another source than the people. Exactly it. Yep.
Just want to say, Shane, thanks for answering my questions all these years, and
Oh, no problem.
keep doing what you're doing.
I will. Okay, and that will do it for another live stream for another month. I'd like to thank everyone that participated. Both of the Darths. We had Sid. Can't remember if anyone else joined us. Then, of course, everyone in the chat. And thank you so very much for watching. Until next time, stay strong and be free.